Okay, hello, this is Dr. James, and today we're going to try to answer an interesting question. Do lightning strikes produce gamma rays or X-rays? I've heard some rumors of this. My buddy said that he had one of those nuclear detection first warning electronic devices that looks for gamma ray flashes from a nuclear weapon. He says it will go off sometimes in lightning storms. So I got curious about that, and I've been doing some experiments with exploding water. And so I looked up an article, and it turns out that NASA had some kind of article that says that they are measuring gamma rays from lightning strikes. Okay, so here's an article that I found on the internet from Scientific America, and they're claiming that images from satellites show that there's X-rays surrounding thunderheads. So it does appear that lightning in nature is producing X-rays, but is it producing it because of the high voltage? Which I don't think it should be, because the mean free path in air, even if you have like a gigavolt of electricity, the electrons can't accelerate that fast up to X-ray energies because they would be colliding with too many atoms at atmospheric pressure. So something doesn't make sense here. So let's take a look at our experiment and see if we can see if it's caused by the X-rays are caused by the intense currents exploding water. Okay. And lightning is what, about 300 million volts on average, 30 million amps of current. It's produced by static electricity from the cloud to the ground, or cloud to cloud, and it's a very intense electrical discharge. And I'm trying to produce some intense electrical discharges too, but using a much lower voltage and a small, pretty high farad low voltage capacitor, comparatively 360 volts. So let's take a look at our setup here, and we will see if we can measure X-rays from exploding water, which would be what would happen in a lightning strike. Of course, usually it's raining when the lightning strikes, and so the lightning is going to do the same thing to little raindrops that I'm doing to the water right here. Let's take a look. Should be interesting. Okay, so anyway, here is a neutron detector, fast neutron detector that I built some time back. And I'm using this switching power supply here. And I tried to put some filters on the output of it, RC filter and an inductor too. And I'm running my switching power supply here at about 2.2 kilovolts. I hope that's not too high for my tube. I had to, you get a lot higher gain when you run the voltage up, and it looks like, let's take a look here, it looks like we are getting events here. We are getting trigger events on our neutron counter. This is a plastic scintillator in there, and a photomultiplier tube. And I built it a long time ago. I don't remember what tube I used. But anyway, I was running it at 1,000 volts, and I wasn't getting anything above the noise. It's a bunch of noise from the switching power supply, which I'm going to try to kill. Filter that out or something. But by just running up the voltage on the PM tube, I increased the gain a lot, instead of running it at 1,000 volts. Okay, just to give you an idea of what's inside this tube, this is what a photomultiplier tube looks like, or this tube, the plastic tube. This is what a scintillator looks like. I have a plastic scintillator in there, not a sodium iodide, but it's kind of about what would be inside that tube. And then there's some electronics here with resistors to divide the voltage down. So I don't want to take the tube apart right now because I'm doing experiments with it, but this is the general idea of what's inside of that guy. And it's probably a different photomultiplier tube. I'm not sure which one it was because I built it a long time ago. I have to take it apart and see what's in there. But anyway. Okay, let me take a quick look at the outside of this photomultiplier tube, and maybe I will take it apart in another video if I feel adventuresome. And it is similar to this thing I got down here, which I had to build a resistive divider, and I'm not sure if I got the specs right on this one because I haven't been able to find the specs. This Harshaw sodium iodide tube. But I'm just showing you this to show you how the resistive divider works. You have to put resistors between all the diodes, so you divide the voltage down, and that causes the electrons to accelerate from one diode to the next and amplify as they go down the chain, so you can get a big signal on the output. And so that's the kind of thing that's inside of here. So inside the back part there's a bunch of resistors and maybe some capacitors. I don't remember exactly the circuit that I used. The photomultiplier tube is in this section, and then there's a plastic conical scintillator up here. And again, these are just PVC pipe components. And I don't know if you can see here, but I spray painted the inside black so I'll absorb any stray photons that don't go into the detector. And there is our photomultiplier tube. We'll do some testing on the scope to see if we can get some signals out of this thing above the noise. Very cool. Okay, just a quick explanation here of our setup. This is got a photomultiplier tube in here and a plastic scintillator, so it's good for detecting neutrons, but it will also detect X-rays. So this is my radiation detector here, and it's going to the scope. I have a high voltage switching power supply powering that, and some filter circuits that I built. And I have a lead shield that I can put in place or remove, so we can test to see if it's X-rays or if it was EMP or something causing it to trigger. It wouldn't go away if you shield it line of sight with lead, because electromagnetic waves can go around that. They're very big waves and they diffract around that, so it's a good way to test to see if we're getting X-rays or other things. And here's a contraption that I built. It has a, let's see if we can get it there a little bit. Okay, got a hinge so I can bring it down. It's got a tungsten electrode up here at the top. Okay, and it's got a copper electrode on the bottom, and they're hooked up to a photo flash capacitor, which I charge up with this switching power supply. I did a video on that. And I can put water in between the gap, and it'll come down and explode it with a very high intensity electric arc. And I'm just using this little plastic thing to kind of hold it up while I charge up the device to high voltage. And I take some water and I'll stick it here in the gap so I can explode that. And I'll turn on my switching power supply here and charge it up to about, I have it set to, with this power supply you can tune the voltage that it goes up to, so I have it set to about 360 volts, which is the limit of our capacitor here. It looks like it's charging up very nicely. Okay. And again, this, I'm looking for very fast time scale impulses, so I have to capture it with a scope. And unfortunately, I'm getting some cosmic rays that come through every once in a while. Here, let's take a look here. So there is a cosmic ray that triggered the scope. And I'm going to re-trigger the scope in a second to get rid of that event once we're up to full voltage. Okay. Make sure everything's on. Got our radiation detector, our photomultiplier tube and scintillator turned on, and we're up to full voltage. Okay. Oops. Come on. I'll disconnect our power supply. And, okay, there we go. Re-trigger our scope here. Okay. Okay, there we go. And let's take a look here. 3, 2, 1. And look at that. Nice big radiation signal. Very cool, huh? Okay. So we're definitely producing some radiation. So anyway, let's just take a look here and see what happens. Let's see if we trigger the scope. Trigger the scope. Then we want to check to make sure with our lead shield, that it is actually X-rays or something that's coming in line of sight and not EMP. So we can always put our lead shield in here, in between our spark gap and our detector. And if it's EMP, it would go around the lead shield and still affect the detector, but if it's X-rays, it'll be blocked by the line of sight and be stopped. So we'll be able to test to see if it's X-rays or not, coming off of our spark gap or exploding water. Very cool, huh? Okay, so we'll try this experiment again with the lead shield in place. And I'll reset the scope and charge it up to the same voltage. Well, I'll reset it again once it's up there. And we got water doing our experiment there in between the electrodes. And I think we're up to about full voltage here. So I'll turn this guy off. Okay. And we'll reset the scope. And 3, 2, 1. Okay. Definitely, we blew up the water there. And no trigger from the scope. Oh, now we triggered off a cosmic ray. So it definitely looks like we're getting X-rays from our exploding water through high voltage. Very cool, huh? And we're at full voltage, and I removed the X-ray shield just to make sure we get our signal back, because it hasn't been triggering with the X-ray shield in place. Let's give this a shot. Okay, signal's back now. Okay, so we're about up to 360. And I got the X-ray lead shield in place. And there's our contraption back there. Okay. And let's see if we trigger anything. Ouch. No signal. Look at that. Looks like the spark gap is shooting this crap onto the detector here, where it was, and it's doing it up in the front also. See that up there? Let's see. I don't know what that is, but it's shooting crap all over the place when it explodes. Black stuff, huh? Okay, so it looks like from our experiments we are getting a pretty big signal, and the signal is higher if we put the spark gap in front of the scintillator instead of off to the side, which at first I was worried that it was maybe EMP or electromagnetic noise triggering the phototube, but it's not. It looks like it is definitely, we put the lead shield in line of sight between the spark gap and our detector, and it is definitely producing some kind of line of sight radiation, which EMP would be a large wavelength, and large wavelengths will diffract around something like that, a finite barrier. They'll get into anything. If anyone's done work with EMP or electromagnetic noise, it goes everywhere. You have to put a box around it to basically shield it. So we're putting something in line of sight in between the spark gap and our detector, and it is blocking the radiation. So it's got to be X-rays or neutrons, but most likely X-rays, because lead's more designed to stop X-rays. If I wanted to block neutrons, you'd use something like maybe wax or something with a lot of lower Z material closer to the mass of a neutron. Basically, you want a high Z or high number of protons. Material like lead here. It's got a lot of electrons. Electrons interact with the X-rays and stop them. And so it's looking like we're producing pretty bright flashes of X-rays and detecting them with our scintillator and photomultiplier tube. So it looks like lightning does produce radiation, X-rays and gamma rays. Very cool, huh? So there's high energy nuclear reactions going on inside that discharge. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. This is Dr. Janes, and thanks for watching.